Back in late 2013, and following major events like Two Cities and Mecha, the Team Fortress team was busy at work on an update concept surrounding the ongoing war between spies and engineers. This concept, while being worked on for many months, was being leaked in small bug fix updates at the time. This led to much speculation and hushed anticipation for an update to the gameplay of both engineer and spy, but it never came. I, even back in late 2014, published a pretty crap report putting together all the speculation and data mined leaks on that possible update. If you want to see it, I have the unlisted link down below. But many thought it was just another thing people in the community were making up. However, with time, hindsight, and some leaks on our side, the community is now very aware of this update and what became of it. Parts were recycled into gunmetal. Things like contracts, rewards, skins, and a focus on Miss Pauline were kept, but major features such as new buildings and weapons for engineer and new weapons and entirely new concepts for spy were lost to time. It's not known why Valve decided to cut the concept of the entire update altogether. However, we do know everything that they didn't do, and today we're going to be talking about just one of the many features left out of Team Fortress 2 and the Spy vs. Engineer update, the spy traps. Imagine if Spy, instead of being able to sap buildings, could instead build his own. The spy traps are essentially repurposed engineers' building functionality to introduce 4 new novel devices at Spy's disposal. There are 4 known types of these traps: sap traps, reprogrammers, pulse magnets, and repulsors. Let's go into everything we know about these spy traps, as well as some future hints on what exactly was the Spy vs. Engineer update. Here we go. 2 out of 3 guys will experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time they're 35. This video is sponsored by Keeps. You used to have to go to the doctor's office for your hair loss prescription. Now, thanks to Keeps, you can visit a doctor online and get hair loss medication delivered right to your home. Keeps offers generic versions of the only 2 FDA-approved hair loss products out there, and prevention is key. Keeps treatments can take up to 4 to 6 months to see real results, so it's important to act fast. The sooner you start using Keeps, the more hair you'll save. Find out why Keeps has more 5-star reviews than any of its competition by visiting keeps.com/VNN today. Despite this being called a sap trap, its main functionality is not based around sapping, or at least it wasn't at the moment this update was cancelled. According to all known sources, this trap would rather be called the cloak buff trap. Its main functionality relies on cloaking nearby players on the same team as the trap owner. If the player is validated to be eligible for the effect, he gets a stealth buff condition, which is actually the same exact condition used by the Halloween invisibility spell used to make any players invisible. Now, when the player leaves the range of the trap, they lose their cloak effect 2 seconds later. Interesting side note, while the player is invisible, all bots ignore them. This, like all other traps that we currently know about, uses the Engie's teleporter model. This is a placeholder. This was canceled before anybody on the Team Fortress team could actually develop dedicated models for any of these spy traps. This trap would be active for 10 seconds exactly and then explode immediately after. And this trap, like all others, can and should be destroyed by enemies with a total health of 150 HP. Hence the name. The main purpose of this trap is to reprogram enemies. This trap is touch activated, meaning if a player touches it, they switch teams. Now, of course, this was initially intended for something like Man vs. Machine, where anything that touches it would then fight for the main players. Upon triggering, this trap checks to see if the touching player is an enemy, and also not a mini-boss. Things like MVM Giants can't be affected. If the enemy is eligible, the trap will apply the reprogrammed condition, which switches the enemy's team. This trap is single use, meaning it would destroy itself upon its first trigger, and it would also destroy itself if no one touches it for 20 seconds. This trap is a player magnet. All players within 700 hammer units of the trap will be pulled in using an unused CVAR called Spy Trap Magnet Force. Now, that CVAR can also be changed to have the pulling force be increased or decreased. This trap is active for 5 seconds, and when active, all players in 700 hammer units around the trap will be pulled immediately to that trap's center and held in place. Of course, like all other traps, it explodes when the timer of 5 seconds through its active use hits 0. Okay, so it's called the Repulsor, and unfortunately, nothing concrete is known about it, outside of the fact that it existed. The only reference that we have to the Repulsor is commented out. Unlike all other traps, this also has its own dedicated HUD resources. Now, considering the name Repulsor, this trap is probably the inverse of the magnet. Instead of pulling players to the center, it would push players outside of its radius. Now, it's my guess that this actually wasn't scrapped, but just unfinished. This one was just kind of an idea that by the time Spy vs. Engineer was just cut entirely, wasn't really implemented or prototyped to the point where it's a fully playable trap. These traps would require metal and have a build time. However, these features were not far enough along to have functionality of any sort be written. Everything that you've been seeing on screen is rebuilt from scratch, all using source mod, meaning these theoretically could be used in a server-side mod, allowing anyone to use these traps in combat. It's just a random side note and definitely not representative of anything being worked on behind the scenes. Don't think about it. Tune in next time when we talk about bounties, upgrades, and cash. Huge thanks to co-creator of Creators.tf, Moonly, for rewriting everything that you've seen in this video. If you have any questions for me, if you want to be able to talk to me, tell me something I'm doing incorrectly, correct me on anything, my DMs on both Twitter and Discord are always open. If you want to support this channel, I have a Patreon page where you get to watch videos early and get your name in the credits. You're about to see those momentarily. And of course, if you don't like Patreon, you can always buy some merch. You're probably gonna see it directly underneath this video. We sell missing texture masks, speculation shirts, error stickers, and many other things. People seem to like it. You should check it out if you can. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. I'm Tyler McVicker. This is Valve News Network. Have a good day. Adios.